Hello, and welcome to the actual second leg of Warpick Only Ring, where we're styling on some enemies in Fort Height. Um, at this point of the journey, I got a second Warpick for power stancing and also just some more Ash of War variability. And the reason of going to Fort Height was to get the um, Nomadic Warrior cookbook for blood grease. Um, who's my friend gave me the recommendation challenge of using spinning weapon and with Warpick, and as you saw in the Radon clips, I do. However, at this point, I am falsely optimistic that blood grease is good enough to actually get the bleed buildup going. And later in this, I do have a clip to show that, sadly, it is not. You gotta love Blood Slam when you can actually use terrain like that and just jump down on somebody. However, the hyper armor and poise of the war pick is still really nice, and we do have some nice Ashes of War. And yeah, and there's the Nomadic Warriors cookbook for blood grease. And like I said, unfortunately, blood grease is just without any passive blood buildup on the war pick itself. It just does not cut it for later boss fights. In here, following the Fort Heights stop, I am in the Limgrave, not Limgrave tunnels, um, the Weeping Peninsula tunnel where you go get the rusted anchor, because I falsely believed that there were smithing stone 2s here, um, because I wanted to upgrade my war picks before trying to go through Stormvale and getting to Godrick. And as you can see, well, now as you can see, pierce damage is very ineffective against stone guys, and I am in desperate need of other damage types. But if nothing else, we can at least come here and style on the boss, because I would have to check, but I think that like the heavier your weapon, it accounts in terms of like, well, not the weapon weight, but their for like weapon classes, you do more stance damage with Ashes of War, because I don't know if Stamp Upward Cut always does that in terms of damage, but just like one fully charged heavy and then stamp, and then we stance break this guy, and we get some souls for a level up. So, not a like not a total waste of time, and it is fun to just clear out the tunnels. And I am going to use the those particular smithing stones later, for once I get the Two Fingers Talisman in one of the later parts, because Blood Flame Blade, unlike Blood Grease, also applies a 40% of faith scaling fire damage buff, which is actually kind of relevant when your AR is not great, like with Warpix. And there I got the Green Turtle Talisman, because stamina is nice. I just like having tons of stamina. And as what this fight is going to show, that I think a lot of it is pierce damage is really good against certain things. I think like obviously like standard is very average, and slash is sometimes really good, but I think like strike damage is overall the strongest in for PvE. But yeah, power stance war picks, at least at this point, are pretty good for clearing out a lot of stuff. And with the stance damage, and because I didn't grab Sacred Blade, I'm not worrying about the other skeletons, and I'm just going for the main guy, because the Tibia Mariners are wonderful at murdering all of their own mobs with all of the water AoE attacks, and the other mobs aren't really doing much. Like specifically this attack just like obliterates them. And if the mobs are like close enough, they sometimes just get like their revive also gets obliterated, which is really useful, especially with some of the later Tibia Mariners where they summon giant skeletons. But overall, this is a very calm boss fight because I have heavy armor, good poise. So even though the damage is lacking, but because my endurance, especially because I've been through the Weeping Peninsula and got the extra sacred tears and golden seeds, I've got plenty of flasks to just kind of tank some of these attacks to the face, and then change over to ground slam and realize, wow, my butt deals strike damage apparently, and that makes things a whole lot easier. Well, I also don't want to accidentally die to that attack, so we are not going to trade into that. That is a different highlight reel that hopefully I will never be a part of. And then again, we get some more souls for a level up. And then, yeah, then from here I went over to finish off, effectively finish the Weaving Peninsula by going to beat up the Liurnia Misbegotten. Another relatively straightforward boss fight. It's just fun. It gives you souls. It's not necessarily super important, but in terms of like a casual playthrough, if you're doing a casual playthrough, there's not really a reason. I guess what I'm saying is you can just come over here and kill this guy for some souls. There's not any reason to not do this unless you're speedrunning. And these guys, especially like the Haligtree ones, are, whew, so it feels so good when I have an attack that just staggers them, because I think normally like if you're going for like R1s, you pretty much need a colossal in order to stagger them. I think maybe great swords work sometimes, but for that you have to generally use heavy attacks, I'm pretty sure. Gotta love when you just get hit a bunch because you're going for something fancy. I love that the stamps just duck some things. It's so good. And then there I think I got like some of the extra pierce damage because he's in the middle of his attack, very extended attack animations. Now here, I know I've been kind of like cutting through them a bit. I'm just showing that even though like the damage on the Warpicks is leaving a little bit to be desired on bosses, I'm able to pretty easily clear most mobs in like legacy dungeons like Stormvale with relative ease. So it's not the most exciting part, but in terms of having a complete journey, I think it's just nice to see. Yeah, the Warpick is it's not painful for just getting around, and there's way more setup stuff that you can be doing than I am in terms of just like running to Stormvale now, because you can just completely ignore Stormvale, go to Liurnia, get a bunch of stuff. But I'm in keeping the relative linear order. I am clearing out Stormvale before going to before going to the lakes. And I think probably all of us the first time we played this one were like, uh-oh, as whenever we open this door and it goes pitch black and there's a banished knight waiting for us. However, I'm prepared. I brought a light. I know that there's a bonfire waiting for me. I'm not too far away. And I can duck sword swings and just take care of this guy pretty easily because hammers are good. And a shield that I may or, well, I haven't yet, but I might decide to use later in the playthrough. Because, but yeah, very straightforward. Getting through all of these, all the legacy dungeons through the standard enemies. And here is a very important pit stop to go find Rogier, because he has Spinning Weapon. And Spinning Weapon is very important because this allows rapid status buildup from multi-hits. And after this, I'm going to make a quick detour to grab the iron wet blade. Yes, that's the one that's in here. The iron wet blade is important because then I can put the heavy infusion on a Warpick when I use Spinning Weapon, because normally it's just a magic infusion, and if you have your Warpicks magic infused, then they can probably deal with the stone guys better, but I can't apply buffs or blood grease to that. And here is a 2x speed Godrick fight because I wanted to show how rough this was with blood grease rather than blood flame blade. So we are just going to speed through, and I want you to count how all 0 times that bleed procs on him, because despite trying quite hard, I do not proc any bleed on him at all. It is incredibly frustrating to just be like, oh, I have this set up, I can do this and get status stuff, because like blood grease with the Morning Star or Flamberge at this point is great. And as you can see, like, already I'm struggling with flasks. It is rough. It is not like blood grease only is not a fun time. But I wanted to show the entirety of me getting wrecked by Godrick attempting this strategy, so that way y'all can see you need better setup than just blood grease in order to actually pull this stuff off. Yes, Godfrey did witness your one win, Godrick. And now, because I'm not going to try and use that, we are going to show the another slightly sped up Godrick fight. However, this time just using Stamp Upward Cut on a heavy infused Warpick, and things go much better because I'm not concerned about the status buildup. I can just pound away at him with stance damage and just keep going, because you see I already stance broke him once already. It is much easier. I can completely take my time and not try and rush, because I'm not trying to get a bleed proc off with worrying about the delay in the between hits causing the blood buildup to decay. And there I just punched the dragon head. Yeah, and as you can see, like, there I took some damage, but like I still have my blue flasks, I still have a lot of red flasks relatively, until Godrick started to kind of pound on me there. But it is a much simpler fight, and I have way more resources to just, well, play a little bit looser, and yeah. And I think the fire in the last fight was just like really bad RNG in terms of like, oh, because that's a really good wake up for him. in terms of, um, yeah. But that was granted, I think I ended with the same number of flasks, but that was a much easier fight. That was like a first attempt right after that whole blood grease fiasco. And now we are in Liurnia, and we're gonna go grab a sacred tear and start the journey of a very nice collectathon. And I'll be going through the different parts, but the one of the first major stops on the collectathon is going to be the Rea Lucaria crystal tunnels. Right, so here in the smithing tunnel, that is, you know what, that was so good. I'll just leave that one in. So in the crystal tunnel, we are getting smithing stones and the smithing bell bearing. Hence, it's the smithing tunnel, and one of the easiest and best stops for most early game builds. And although we only have the 2 Warpicks, if I wanted to grab a third later on, and also to improve sacred seals for improving buffs, it's just really convenient having the bell bearing, so I don't have to mine smithing stones. And by mine, I mean just go find them. I can just use some souls, grab them, and not have to worry at all about having underleveled weapons in a run where the weapons I have struggle a little bit with damage. Again, later as this run progresses, it is not as big of a concern, because with the Bloodflame Blade and then also Lightning Weapon, I am able to handle a lot more things easily because of the elemental damage. And the lightning weapon buff is actually really good. I think it's 70% of the faith scaling incantation boost. So for 100, that would just be a straight 70, and it goes up from there. But when your weapon attack, I think at this point is like maybe 200, even with the heavy infusion, with the infusions and stuff. This like at least, well, it's more than a 25% buff. It's like a 30% buff to your attack rating. So that's really useful to have, especially since lightning resistance is generally one of the lower resistances in the game. So with that in mind, the next part of the collectathon is going to grab those. But first, we have to beat up this Crystallion. Thankfully, these guys' defense go like drop insanely after you stance break them once. So the real challenge is just stance breaking them once and then just pummeling them into the dirt. However, I have a lot of high stance damage Ashes of War, which make this not a difficult task at all. So after one butt slam, we're grooving, and we're having a great, and we're just beating. I was gonna say Snot, but I don't think these guys have Snot to beat out because they're just giant crystal guys. But confusion and jokes aside, that's part 2. Have a great day, y'all.